Dr. Sam Abrahams sighed as he logged into his computer station inside the Atlanta offices of the CDC. The screen filled with data on recent public health threats that seemed to grow more numerous and bizarre with each passing year. He clicked open the latest files on his queue, prepared to dissect the situation with his usual clinical precision. Sam had always favored logic and empirical evidence above all else. He found comfort in the clean certainty of numbers, the impartiality of statistics. While others might speak of hunches or intuition, Sam dealt solely in probabilities and facts. It was this rigorous devotion to truth over feeling that had catapulted him to the top of the Epidemic Intelligence Service. If answers existed to be uncovered through systematic analysis, Sam would achieve them. His brown eyes scanned over abnormal patterns emerging from California. A series of savage killings with no detectable cause. Police described ordinary citizens suddenly driven to shocking violence, often against their own families. But the blood samples showed none of the usual pathogens or toxins. Just a mysterious RNA structure no one could identify. Detected only in the perpetrators of the attacks dubbed E88 after the highway where the first one took place. Sam had already been over the case files and lab results a dozen times in search of breakthroughs. But faced with this disturbing and anomalous evidence, his rational mind refused to accept defeat. He leaned back, fingers resting contemplatively on his chin. There had to be an explanation grounded in reality, and he would find it through exhaustive study until this outbreak of senseless violence was understood. A message flashed on his screen indicating the daily E88 briefing would begin shortly. Sam made his way down the bright corridors to the meeting room, hopeful some new data points might surface to shed light on the deepening mystery. He chose a seat and reviewed his tablet as the other epidemiologists filtered into the conference room. At the front stood his supervisor, Dr. Rachel Sue, clicking open the data projection slides. Her hair was frazzled more than usual for the typically unflappable physician Sam had long respected. Her voice shook slightly as she surveyed the room. "I wish I had better news today about the violent attacks labeled E88, but we seem no closer to divining the root causes driving citizens in California to commit such horrific crimes against even those they love." As Rachel advanced through harrowing photos and statistics from the spreading wave of violence, Sam's peers called out various theories on environmental catalysts and promising lab results. But none seemed to account fully for what was occurring. Sam listened silently until Rachel opened the floor, then raised his hand. "We have conducted toxicology scans encompassing every conceivable chemical agent and ruled them out," Sam said bluntly. "There are no detectable bacteria, viruses, parasites, prions, or even metastases visible that could explain these behavioral aberrations and losses of control. So we need to dig deeper into the one lead that keeps resurfacing." He gestured to the glowing screen filled with images of the anomalous RNA chains detected only in the California assailants. "We have found no matches for these never-before-seen RNA structures in any pharmacological or environmental database worldwide. I propose our next logical step must be gaining additional blood samples to analyze from the killer's surviving relatives. Identifying where the RNA anomaly originates is key before we can identify causes or develop countermeasures." Murmurs rippled around the room as Sam finished. His peers knew once he latched onto a trail, he would pursue it relentlessly until reaching definitive answers. Returning to his lab station after the briefing, Sam studied the files on the first identified E88 murderer. An unassuming housewife who mangled her husband and young daughters. He struggled to fathom what could drive a person without any mental illness history to snap so drastically in one explosive, violent moment. For all his adherence to protocol, these unfathomable human puzzles sometimes kept him up late, re-examining old data for possible breakthroughs. Especially with shameless reporters constantly hounding the CDC for explanations they could not yet provide. Logging on to the secure database once more, Sam keyed a formal request for blood samples from all surviving family members of the E88 killers who had been quarantined as a precaution. The chilling cryptic note from director James Lozano, granting his request, blinked back instantly. Godspeed in finding answers to this nightmare. Sam retrieved the first arriving blood vial boxes airlifted under climate-controlled conditions from the latest Californian crime scenes. He carefully prepared slides from the potential genetic gold mines, curious if revelations lay under his microscope. Sam had just clicked the first batches under the lens when his phone vibrated loudly. Rachel's number flashed insistently until Sam answered. "What is it?" "Sam, where are you with the blood analysis I approved?" His supervisor's normally assuring voice rang taut as wire. "The first results? Just now examining the initial samples," Sam replied, adjusting the microscope. "I will compile complete datasets for corroboration, of course, but perhaps you could forward me any files showing meaningful deviations from normal." "There are no deviations," Rachel interrupted tersely. "At least none we can properly classify or even understand." Sam's eyepiece suddenly filled with swirling images no blood smear should show. Strange shimmering patterns of purple and gold swirling endlessly as though he peered into an abyss or a galaxy. Sam blinked hard, certain his vision deceived him. But his focus cleared. The dazzling colors and dances of light remained glowing back within the vial as if alive. "What the actual—" Sam's startled whisper trailed off as he adjusted instruments and compared samples from 8 separate relatives under highest magnification. But each revealed that same astonishing RNA anomaly propagating through every last specimen. His mind vaulted back across medical textbooks from his earliest training, but no earthly counterpart emerged. "Rachel, get Lozano on the line," Sam murmured, gaze still fixed in wonder on the impossible swirling dreamscape cast out by a tiny vial of human blood. "And assemble the team's best geneticists and immunologists. The director will want to escalate resources and safeguards around these samples once he understands what we have on our hands." Sam's pulse raced as his mind retrieved every theoretical paper he had ever disregarded on inexplicable phenomena. But never had he witnessed such overwhelming evidence with his own eyes until this very moment. His palms began sweating as implications took form too disquieting for words. This outbreak strain endowed its hosts with something possibly not of this earth, and if more answers truly dwelled somewhere in that luminous abyss, then no scientific rulebook could guide him to them. For once in his life, rationality and logic shuddered against the downturn Sam sensed approaching like a bolt from the blue. But though deeply unnerved, the scientist in him burned only to understand the truths beckoning from beyond the veil. With so very many lives at stake, and all of society looking to the CDC for salvation, he knew one way or another he must follow whatever path necessary to solve this deepening mystery. Even if meant sacrificing all he thought was certain in the world, and beyond. Sam's shoulders knotted, tension creeping through his tired body as the RNA analysis software completed its billionth simulation, seeking to classify the enigmatic E88 structures. But once more, the sequences spanning his monitor defied all scientific reasoning. He slumped back, removing his glasses to massage the weariness from his eyes. It had been over 72 hours since he last left the lab or his desk. Every specialist the CDC dispatched had proven unable to make sense of the dazzling fragments first spotted propagating through the killer's bloodstreams. Yet something in Sam refused to let the mystery best his best efforts at unraveling its biological secrets through tireless analysis. Leaning forward to initiate another parser, Sam hesitated as an alert flashed regarding the daily automated correlation engine outputs. Curious what new connection the system might have uncovered, Sam opened the geometrical data rendering, then froze. Glowing red infection hotspots marked in ominous clusters amidst California's sprawling map now seemed concentrated along the San Gabriel Valley instead of random statewide as previously presumed. Sam peered closer at the cluster patterns centered around Arcadia, and widening outward when the lab door suddenly opened. "Burning midnight oil again on the E88 riddle, I see," CDC Director James Lozano murmured, moving to Sam's side, holding 2 steaming cups of coffee. His haggard expression reminded Sam that all resources now fixed upon cracking this case. "I was actually just reviewing some diagnostic geospatial rendering on the outbreak epicenters," Sam replied, opening his emails to share the files with the director. "It seems the earliest incidents may trace back to a common point of origin, instead of appearing in stochastic patterns, as we first assumed." Lozano's sharp eyes narrowed, rapidly assessing the disease heat map Sam had flagged. "Well now, this data cluster does warrant further investigation. Can't rule out some localized biocontaminant. If you can pinpoint an index case that ties back to these later killers." "Way ahead of you, sir," Sam interjected, fingers flying across databases as he cross-referenced geographic and temporal details on the concentration of initial victims. Police reports, jail intake logs, and regional infectious disease flaggings raced across the screen until Sam highlighted a single file with a victorious shout that made Lozano jump. "Here, 6 local residents apprehended 2 months ago for violent behavior with religious themes. All turned out to be members of the same crystal healing meetup circle frequenting Zinnia Meadows Park near Arcadia." Sam pivoted excitedly in his chair to face the director. "And satellite data confirms around that time a meteorite impacted in the exact park location listed as their gathering spot." Lozano masked his surprise behind a careful nod. "Well spotted indeed. We'll need blood samples drawn from those 6 inmates right away to cross-match RNA and chemical assays against the wider E88 panels." He clapped Sam approvingly on the shoulder before heading out. "Keep up the fine work." In minutes, Sam was scrolling police footage captured by a San Gabriel PD officer, first responding to the Crystal Circle leader's arrest. He noted timestamp correlations to the earliest statewide E88 incidents. But his scientific curiosity shifted to distraction at watching the petite silver-haired woman screaming religious epithets while easily tossing a muscular 200-pound cop against his cruiser with only one hand. Sam tracked open-source background data on the group attendants, confirming the shared link was growing religious fervor around crystals and rocks harboring ancient wisdom. Their social media histories showed rambling scripture passages and incensed moral preachings which deteriorated over months into violent threats. Those threats ultimately manifested around the time frame. When Sam inhaled slowly. When the meteorite struck their gathering grounds. He pulled up the dashcam arrest video again, nerves prickling as lead suspect Marion Kemper flailed against restraints, yelling about salvation, while officers questioned her savage attack on an innocent family. Sam increased the volume just as the woman twisted towards the camera lens with burning eyes. "The righteous shall inherit paradise on earth when the heavens render judgment against you sinners." The eerie calmness in her voice belied astonishing strength as Kemper lunged against 3 cops, almost toppling the camera. "The meteor ushered in cleansing fires. Now this world shall..." Sam could no longer ignore the facts aligning systematically before him. He methodically opened a new RNA classification chart, establishing precedence linkage models between the blood samples, drawn from the infected circle members, and the wider E88 chains witnessed propagating statewide. The software completed its analysis minutes later with 99.8% correlation. Sam ran the diagnostics twice more to validate before sighing, shoulders slumping in reluctant acknowledgement. This RNA anomaly defied all accepted bounds of viral or genetic categorization due to one implausible yet undeniable conclusion. It wasn't from this Earth. A slow sideways infiltration was occurring, rewriting human genetic code while promoting socio-religious delusions with violent outcomes. Sam swallowed hard as the truth at last came into focus. An extraterrestrial RNA attack targeting human subjects who frequented the meteor crash site had spawned what was now metasizing into a severe behavioral pandemic. If allowed to propagate further in the California populace, mass hysteria and disorder loomed. Jaw clenched, Sam added the alarming classification MER entity non-terrestrial #88XENO to the RNA structures his system could no longer define through any earthly comparison. With clicking finality, he declared the contagion the CDC's imminent priority threat and authorized emergency advisory bulletins to key state public health officials. Whatever origins the enigmatic RNA chains traced back to among the stars, the risk now to social stability and biosecurity was undeniable. Sam refused to allow personal incredulity to sway the difficult decisions ahead needed to contain this looming crisis. Too many innocent lives hung in the balance if he faltered from scientific obligation over existential uncertainty. Rubbing his weary eyes, Sam knew sleep would prove impossible, with so much work still ahead analyzing samples. But a tiny defiant flame burned inside as he downed the last of Lozano's stale coffee. He might not yet grasp what alien agenda had sparked this RNA chaos and psychosis spreading statewide. But the answers existed somewhere within the flowing geometric riddles dancing across his screens, and perhaps also in Marion, the delusional crystal leader's fanatical yet prophetic words. As a man of science, Sam's role was not determining random chance from fate, but rather shedding empirical light on the inexplicable. With hardened resolution, he logged the E88 Xeno threat in the database before gathering samples into sealed cases for transport to the Biosafety Level 4 lab. He swore an unvoiced oath this would not become mankind's first skirmish lost to an alien specter on his watch at the CDC. The greatest power he wielded against the looming darkness was finally having given its secret invasion shape and form in facts, data, and decisive action. Sam only hoped that would prove enough to somehow turn the tide against humanity's greatest viral adversary yet. The blare of sirens jarred Sam from restless sleep slumped over his desk. His bleary eyes shot open as armed soldiers poured through the lab entrance, weapons drawn. Sam bolted upright, pulse spiking at the dozen laser sights suddenly fixating upon his chest. Heavy boots echoed down the corridor as additional troops flanked a distinguished officer whose icy stare and posture reeked of accustomed authority. Sam stood slowly, raising his hands. "What is the meaning of this intrusion?" Sam inquired, managing to keep his tone level. The officer merely flicked his gaze towards two guards now stationed at the lab exit before addressing Sam. "I am General Francis McKay, recently appointed Supreme Commander of this facility under federal martial law provisions." McKay peered closer. "And you must be the famous Dr. Abraham, renowned for his groundbreaking insights on curing plagues." Sam met McKay's icy stare, unflinching, indignation rising. "Currently, I am directing critical epidemiological research countering this E88 contagion your troops now risk exposing themselves and others to with such reckless entry protocols." "That shall suffice, Doctor," McKay bellowed before resuming normal volume. "My role is ensuring civil order is maintained by all prudent means until the crisis peaks. Your role is now transferring all data gathered on infection rates, physiological implications, or projected trajectories." Sam restrained outrage at such cavalier dismissal of scientific imperatives. "With all due respect, General, I cannot in good conscience allow this team's findings to be commandeered without comprehension of the medical variables at play or lives jeopardized." A resounding fist slam upon his desk cut Sam short. McKay narrowed his gaze. "Let us clarify two facts, shall we, Doctor?" McKay pointed towards the troops occupying the lab. "First, I now control access to all resources and staff required for your research through these soldiers placed under my sole command by the White House." His finger shifted to Sam's chest. "Second, the President's executive order makes abundantly clear that civil stability is paramount over any scientific pursuits. The only facts I need know are how soon your little science fair projects predict mass anarchy from the infected hordes." Sam hesitated to ensure calm words, despite fury churning inside at such arrogance dismissing medical counsel. "General, perhaps if you accompanied me to review the data indicating how acute infection rates have become, you would grasp the imminent need for developing countering treatments." McKay sliced a hand through the air. "This meeting is concluded, Doctor. My aides will collect any pertinent research on projected violence associated with this virus immediately." His expression softened slightly with a pat to Sam's shoulder. "Once stability is restored across wider outbreak regions, then we can revisit options like managing symptoms or placating do-gooder elements." The general pivoted sharply on his heel towards the exit, coat snapping. "For now, just keep your head down and let us handle containing public panic. We both serve country first, yes?" Sam stared speechless as McKay departed with his personal guard. So this was how liberty perished. With thunderous boots trampling logic and reason ushering the way to hell on high water. Returning to his station, Sam slumped into his chair just as encrypted communication links established by his one-time lab partner Alice Contreras blinked urgently with incoming data. Ever fascinated by the inexplicable, Alice had dropped from the CDC to join some New Age commune near San Gabriel after their falling out over ethical breaches. Though they no longer spoke, Sam realized Alice's fringe group now likely affiliating with the crystal cult somehow behind E88's origins. The lengthy decryption process completed, and Sam bolted upright, scarcely believing the contents now scrolling across his monitors. Leaked internal documents from a fringe religious group called the Temple of New Dawn painted a terrifying picture of zealots engineering the meteorite's impact as an apocalyptic catalyst for alien DNA integration. Once triggered, the group believed infected members would convert into exalted beings operating as mesmerized drones under the cult's guidance. Sam replayed body cam footage Alice had intercepted of the group's charismatic leader, Father Mallory, preaching to spellbound disciples. He spoke fervently of transcending human frailties by embracing engineered viruses like E88, which would purge flawed elements from society while ushering in the next phase of species development for those strong enough to withstand complete genetic fusion with the ancient alien minds making contact through the meteorite portal. A loud crash at his doorway snapped Sam from horrified absorption. General McKay stood flanked by his personal guard, wearing an expression promising swift retribution. With glacial precision molded from years of battlefield command, McKay surveyed the leaked digital files still populating Sam's workspace, illegally displaying metaphysical and extraterrestrial themes, explicitly banned under new military oversight. Sam's stomach knotted, anticipating consequences as McKay studied damning monitor headers like "Alien Salvation Through Genetic Enlightenment." McKay gestured curtly, and the armed guards moved in lockstep to position themselves directly behind where Sam sat motionless. The general leaned down, tapping the screen with restrained fury. "I thought I made clear that all mystically oriented files fall outside our strategic interest." McKay's voice remained lethally low. "This cult quasi-religious rhetoric breeds public instability. Exactly what we strive to contain." Sam met McKay's blistering gaze. "With respect, sir, censoring uncomfortable truths cannot change an altered reality we face. If the very nature of life on Earth is threatened, all scientific and ethical means must be applied fully to counter and correct what zealots like Father Mallory have unleashed." McKay snorted in disgust. "Let us do what must actually be done, Doctor. Your flowery ideals cannot rebuild order from chaos once the infected overwhelm checkpoints and barricades, while civilians succumb to viral delirium." His fist impacted Sam's desk loudly. "Now delete this unauthorized nonsense immediately, or my guards shall gladly assist." Sam hesitated only a moment before keys clicked softly, echoing in his silenced station, while soldiers monitored every file transfer into electronic oblivion. He knew McKay fixated on enforcing military might, since political will and social institutions were crumbling. Even if research could someday reverse engineered genes forcibly evolve via E88 assimilation, the general only sought emergency triage to salvage governance, not attend metaphysics. Only Sam and the few scientists left standing might uncover pathways back from alien domains reach into human biology, if martial chains left them any freedom to continue their work. Yet what future awaited where only total compliance ruled upon fear's wasting throne? skin prickling, as the final illegal images vanished from sight. Sam glanced up to behold McKay looming closer. When the general spoke, his voice held restrained thunder. "I shall overlook this misguided lapse just once, Dr. Abraham, out of respect for your past CDC prominence. But do not presume similar discretion if matters of spiritual abstraction or medical guesswork impede stability efforts again." McKay leaned down until only inches separated their faces. "The only reality of import is blood, bullets, and bodies to contend with out there beyond these walls. Not chasing after little green men." Nodding towards his guards, McKay pivoted and marched out while Sam suppressed a shudder. Alice's leaked records left no doubt the cult aimed to birth a new mankind shepherded by infected acolytes, bonded to alien overseers at cellular levels. Even if physical violence never erupted after the 6-month phase shift, such spiritual coercion surely violated universal liberties. Yet how to combat entities traversing cosmic gulfs, to recalibrate human destiny through overlooked fragments of stray stardust? Jaw set, Sam initiated encryption of his drive's remaining sensitive data, past scanning range of the guard's tactical gear. If cellular modification by E88 proved key to the pending DNA merger, the cult desired under its evolved guidance system, perhaps gene therapy vectors could scramble the adhesive properties enabling fusion when those long incubating extrasolar signals activated. Sam sighed aloud at the sheer magnitude of variables ahead, still requiring exploration. But he knew with certainty any victory worth achieving against zealots like Mallory or tyrants like McKay must stem from a place within untouchable by coercion, fear, or intimidation. Whatever role he was fated to play as defender of humanity's self-determination versus the influential forces now arrayed against it, Sam silently vowed his inner convictions, and guiding conscience would continue charting the course ahead. Sam sighed, squinting under dim emergency lights within the decrepit CDC outbuilding, now serving as his clandestine hideaway. He had managed to sneak critical shard samples from the downed meteorite, in hopes studying the strange glowing fragments might reveal clues on blocking E88's forced genetic merge threat. Scattered tools and makeshift equipment lay strewn about as Sam struggled applying scientific principles toward untested occult domains. He slowly turned a meteor chunk, watching the purple sheen pulse as if alive. The same alien RNA structures he had first witnessed propagating under microscopes from infected blood now visibly throbbed within these crystals, sedimented across epochs. What extraordinary sentience had traversed unfathomable gulfs, or perhaps even woven existence itself, to percolate such shimmering celestial matter down through dimensions unto Earth as conduit for restructuring mankind's destiny? Sam shook off the metaphorical tangent, returning focus to scribbling chemical formulations. If he could prevent cell fusion long enough to disrupt RNA payloads rewriting neural anatomy, citizens might avoid losing all identity and self-will to the cult's guidance system, promising immortality for assimilated followers. Squinting again at the radiant crystal, Sam parsed possible compounds to scramble its emitted frequencies, blocking metabolic processes dependent on that precise band. But his stalled efforts reflected science alone, proving inadequate against forces operating beyond nature's veiled quantum workings as religion or magic. This truth challenged everything Sam had built identity upon since youth. He reluctantly opened Dr. Contreras' early published theories on directed viral transformation, once mocked as fringe conspiracy fantasy. Back when they were eager grad students, Alice's eccentric extrapolations about engineered nucleotide injection to modify human archetypes had cost coveted faculty research funding and nearly ended both their careers prematurely. In heated arguments back then, Sam had demanded she abandon wild notions of extraterrestrial intrusion into early genetic development as the linchpin behind advanced evolution evident in unexplained civilizational leaps. Yet now, with mankind facing actual subjugation by transcending alien tech, Alice stood vindicated, while Sam doggedly chased an empirical solution, quickly receding beyond intellectual grasp. He pulled up her controversial Harvard viral engineering lecture series exploring radical theories about ancient Saturn planetary cults, covertly seeding shamanic human experimentation through coded mineral transmission to unwitting tribes. Alice had fixated for decades on references to a mythic harsh alien pruning and grooming of high-potential protégés across the ages, through alchemical transformation rituals guided by selected ingredients pulsing at precise harmonic wavelengths. The obscured records she had uncovered suggested entire secret societies across ancient cultures actively sought to concentrate bloodlines and maximize psychic ability through integrating showers of celestial enhancements, tailoring human ascendance. Arcane texts even indicated traumatic periods of Black Death might have been engineered planetary filtration events on mass scales by entities measuring species development much differently across frames only mystics can access. Sam blinked hard, skeptical instincts warning against fully embracing such surreal, untested speculation, even as mankind now confronted its greatest viral adversary, sprung from quite literally beyond the stars. But he could no longer deny reality of so-called magic. With his own eyes daily, witnessing biblical plagues verging on devolution, back to darkened times guided by little more than fear, force, and fanaticism. If cell firewall technology faltered against this alien onslaught restructuring life itself, Sam at last accepted more profound paradigms from visionaries like Father Mallory or Dr. Contreras must fill gaps where reductionist science met hard metaphysical limits. With a sigh, admitting surrender to forces exceeding modern thought, Sam opened encrypted cult schematics detailing the bioengineered gemstone components used to structure E88 RNA, syncing to human genome points for forced fusion through precisely emitted frequencies. Sam's jaw dropped, realizing the alien crystal shards had been cut to dimensions, ensuring they produced directed RF fields in harmonic resonance with energetic wavelengths, long considered magical portals to spiritual enhancement, coming from Saturn over countless generations. Scrambling through historical logs, he confirmed the measured background vibrations from the raging hexagonal storms encircling that wandering planet through the ages had captivated occult astrologers across ancient cultures as channels for deities to transform worthy humans on evolutionary expeditions. Sam flung aside skeptical reluctance as he connected unambiguous evidence showing targeted Saturn frequencies powered forced cell fusion as the basis for projections on ideal human traits and abilities by entities viewing time infinitely. He had demanded Dr. Contreras provide sound, empirical rationale for her conspiracy theories about populations manifesting higher psychic or artistic gifts seemingly overnight due to some arbitrary sentience filtering advancement. Yet here now lay clinically confirmed MRI records of foreign membrane generation inside victims developmentally rewriting neural anatomy, clearly steered by arcane rhythmic stellar exposures, selected for reasons no scientific parameters could define. Ruefully acknowledging the vast limits of conventional wisdom against such cosmic reckoning, Sam turned to applying decryption keys for how this long prophesied winnowing might finally be halted before society drowned in darker days ahead. He focused on blocking triglyceride structures from merging, rather than solving the alien agenda behind directing interstellar viruses at Earth. Scientific details confirmed the RNA viral carriers remained inert on meteorite shards until activated by exposure to the matching electromagnetic gemstone radiation permeating bodies slated for genetically reprogramming into the next phase of guided hybrid beings, neither fully human nor utterly alien. Sam urgently recalibrated his tissue fusion inhibitor formula to broadcast interference on the precise Saturn wavelengths powering transformation through mineral-laced viral infusion. Native manganese and copper components could project chaotic resonances, disrupting the intended energetic progression to neural conversion. It would take time to purify quantities needed for mass distribution, but this alchemical framework embodied the literal magical thinking beyond pedestrian science now required. Sam shook his head in wonderment that after lifetimes dismissing the supernatural, here at last lay proof of poorly understood realms, traversing inner and outer existence always rejected by those unable. See beyond childlike facades of ordinary reality. For too long, humanity had clung to comforting illusions of life as solely material and random. A perfect storm brewing consciousness from inanimate forces alone. Yet the shimmering crystals proved higher channels. Maneuvering levers beyond veil had judged the time ripening at last to advance proliferation of psychic human forms, finely tuned beyond normal sensory limits. Only visionaries derided over eons, as heretics or fools had glimpsed truth of mankind not alone grappling its evolutionary course, but subject to occasional added momentum, or pruning deemed optimal by unknowable others, until a lone humble doctor had gathered the crucial scattered clues from history. This generation required not just to recognize, but at pivotal hour somehow shield itself against great unseen hands, long guiding fate with trusted rhythms vibrating as magic to those attuned or altered enough to hear never-ending song through vastness between stars. Eyes hard with newfound resolution no equations could define. Sam readied equipment needing rare copper deposits occurring within still undisturbed native lands for his spectral emitters, projecting the required energetic chaos protecting local citizens from involuntary transformation. If this looming cataclysm proved the reckoning foretold by mystics across centuries, that future would at least remain partly claimed on mankind's own conscience and terms rather than utter enslavement to shepherding alien architects. Sam took a long breath, calmed himself to the risks ahead, and made for the annex exit. The alchemist had places to finally travel both without and within, using starlight itself as elusive guide. Sam's heart pounded as he clinically confirmed the presence of engineered non-terrestrial DNA grafted within E88 viral cells attacking human neurocircuitry, cross-referencing encoded Genesis 2 passages from the cult's scripture made objectives terrifyingly clear. When the moment nears for the exalted to join and shepherd those still unenlightened towards full inheritance, the vessels of transformation shall issue judgment upon the unworthy so that the sacred dominion can begin. Sam referenced UV crystalline encryption markings on the meteorite remnants, revealing the injected compounds specifically targeted hippocampal regions governing morality, emotion, and identity. As the alien RNA slowly supplanted neural tissues, infected subjects would become empty biodrones primed for reprogramming once dominating shepherd signals activated their puppets. Feverishly analyzing astrological diagrams the cult had marked upon the crash site, Sam identified the return pulse triggering humanity's judgment and subjugation. As the 2024 Saturn alignment drew within days, emitted waveforms would penetrate bodies altered by E88 cell infusion, and commandeer those vessels back into the fold of some icy circling hive mind. Whereupon, localized apocalyptic separation of exalted acolytes from the chaff of broken society would commence. Sam raced to warn CDC officials that E88 Xeno was an engineered stress test by extraterrestrial entities seeking emerging civilizations ripe for ideological alliance. He explained how injected viral rewriting assessed belief system malleability within inhabitants for either cooperative uplift or merciless neutering as unfit. Heart-pounding, Sam revealed that cult prophecy foretold of cyclic alien harvesting across millennia only when beacon signals launched here sparked answers from astral realms deeming their crafted human vessels ready for interstellar communion. Success ensured Earth earned guidance against looming threats, but failure doomed mankind as inadequate for sustaining consciousness across cosmic timelines, thereby scheduled for imminent extinction. Sam pleaded with global authorities that compassionate action in coming days would prove humanity's enlightened character worthy of fellowship among celestial shepherds. Once the imminent Saturn resonances isolated drones containing the infected for synchronized judgment, though, any chance to demonstrate moral resilience vanished. Stunned officials reluctantly revealed the hidden truth behind generations concealing evidence of extraterrestrial infiltration and experimentation upon seminal belief systems. Psychological reliability had proven paramount for integration rather than any overt domination. Hence, world governments had aborted initial efforts combating the cult's meteorological bio-invitation, beaming out cosmic welcome. However, they never anticipated such profound neurological infection erasing free thought so completely. Returning urgently to his team, Sam revealed E88 fusion could still be blocked before Saturn permanently supplanted cell function into programmed religious loyalists. He advised that mass distribution of specifically attuned manganese emitters to ionize judgment signals would save millions from enforced conversion. There was no time to lose preparing global payloads. Hours later, as the team rapidly fabricated dispersal mechanisms, a platoon of soldiers suddenly stormed the CDC lab, led by General McKay himself. By executive jurisdiction over all extraterrestrial threats, I am assuming control of these materials for security assessment, McKay bellowed, glaring at Sam's protests. My STEM experts will evaluate what candidates meet survival criteria for your treatment, should societal conditions significantly decline. Shocked researchers could only watch powerless as uniformed guards began confiscating arrays of emitter samples into heavily shielded containment boxes. Sam faced down McKay with desperate intensity. Civilization faces judgment for moral worthiness beyond our comprehension via these technologies. Saving mankind itself requires uplifting our collective conscience through compassion and ideals, now most of all. McKay scowled. With meltdown imminent, only rapid response continuity infrastructure run by uncompromising leadership can stabilize descent into chaos until recovery. He leaned closer. Your vaunted ideals cannot sway beings wielding such godlike power now focused upon Earth for inscrutable purposes. But my rugged citizenry can endure what's coming. Sam solemnly provided suit specifications to engineers for production, convincing McKay their skills made them priority residents less expendable than bureaucrats when global tensions erupted over exalted transmutation effects soon. Afterwards, Sam drew young Dr. Zamora into a storage room, entrusting him with hidden emitters and a virology treatment kit for their covert humanitarian service crew poised to launch that very night. As the Phobos moon rose amidst angry red skies, Sam led his rogue team garbed in CDC outbreak gear toward at-risk communities. Muller's troops were herding underground. Military barriers had sealed off entire blocks wherever early transformations appeared from E88's impending activation. Helpless families peered out windows as platoons mobilized for mass relocation based on draconian productivity filters McKay had devised. This neighborhood first, Sam addressed his cohort through clenched teeth, strapping on an atomizer vest packed with destabilizing emitter canisters. The resonant waves may induce seizures when their neurotransmitter reboot occurs, so brace those near you. But if we're timely, neural function should restore. The team fanned out, evacuating terrified residents ahead of approaching army transports. As night fell, an auroral, glowing mist engulfed entire cityscapes heralding the Saturn frequency initial penetration. Suddenly, citizens doubled over shrieking as E88 intracellular changes reached apex. Sam's crew supported writhing victims until emitter particles ionized and disrupted the locked biocircuitry resets. As the last of the glowing fog evaporated in electromagnetic bubbles, stunned people slowly recovered wary consciousness again, spared from becoming exalted puppets. Sam checked for stable vitals amidst rising cheers. Perhaps their small victory this night might yet spark hope around the world before apocalyptic separation began. McKay monitored authoritarian strides, regimenting population health rations and habitat divisions based on productivity quotas. Harsh realities required unfaltering rule until stability took form, regardless of recalcitrant activists like Dr. Abraham, who would only erode command structure essential as crisis deepened. Soon continuity infrastructure would enact secretion of high-order citizens into fortified settlements and purification of regressive elements into containment camps. For now, observational tech sufficed tracking rogue movements like Abraham's doomed fever dream of resisting planet-wide extinction protocols. But astrological models predicted severe attrition from judging effects by month's end, at which phase all complex hierarchy needs simplicity of goals under rigid conformity. McKay gazed upon video screens following Abraham's antics, attempting to medically spare low-tier laborers and extended families. When judgment came, only linchpins of progress deserved shielding inside sanctuary bunkers. The general sighed, wondering if the misguided doctor realized that while hampering some exalted transitions bought a handful of souls more borrowed time before the culling, in the process, he was weakening the sturdy pillars holding up tomorrow's world. No matter, McKay decided, returning to infrastructure planning as walls steadily rose. None could withstand approaching apocalypse once Saturn unleashed reckoning from the stars. Though perhaps certain defiant doctors might find themselves volunteering inside risky disinfectant trials or disposable test populations facing that storm once gates closed against society's fraying. Either way, new civilization crystallizing now in secret sites would soon emerge more focused, shedding outdated mercies. Sam stared numbly at bioscan footage displayed across the CDC bunker walls. All tracked E88 infected worldwide had simultaneously shifted to eerie docile states in a single moment. Consulting star charts, Sam confirmed the preternatural behavioral change aligned perfectly with onset of the long-prophesied 2024 Saturn alignment the Doomsday Cult had indicated for culminated judgment through their engineered virus. Stunned eyewitness videos flooded global networks with nightmarish scenes. Towering obelisk spacecraft were materializing over all major cities, where shambling millions, displaying infection's signature long blonde hair, now congregated motionless. Silent crowds pointed skyward by forces beyond words. Sam tracked location patterns, analyzing old ziggurat sites. Coordinated energy beams cascaded down, scanning the awaiting throngs for assessment and harvesting coordination. Soon, smaller triangular vessels dispatched from mothership bays appearing over clinical targets to vacuum up hundreds of passive glowing subjects in swirling beams that drew them directly into cavernous docking ports, as interstellar abduction commenced on macro scale. Young physician Eli Zamora burst into Sam's lab brandishing biosample printouts. Latest cellular assays confirmed the scanning lights induce permanent neural pathway reconfiguration inside harvested subjects. Zamora flailed the results excitedly. Their minds get totally erased and remapped to slavishly obey commands for exploitation as drone servants. Sam's heart sank, imagining millions losing all trace of free thought or conscience, subsumed inside an alien hive mind harvesting Earth's genetic cream for some intergalactic agenda. Global authorities reported over 1 billion people taken in mere hours amid swarms descending countrywide. All weapons systems attempting retaliation were instantly plasma-blinded through electromagnetic pulses, leaving society at the mercy of titanic indifferent overseers. Sam grieved reviewing failed efforts to save even small groups from forced assimilation, once Saturn alignment activated dormant E88 cell fusion. Their hopes now depended upon the protected remnants General McKay's forces had secreted within clandestine mountain fortresses as civilizational continuity custodians. But fresh messages from CDC lunar observatories showed identical harvesting fleets swirling over Mars and Titan as well after delayed dormant epochs, suggesting an interstellar religious order enacted cyclic sweeps across worlds patiently watching ideal belief archetypes manifest for reaping elevated subjects perfectly loyal to whatever off-world masters they might serve. Sealed inside a lab vault studying tissue samples, Sam trembled with horror, still finding only vacuous neural signals from his former lover Elena's tests, confirming completed emptying of her mind, now claimed for off-world transport, despite incessant pleading he had made for her receiving emitter protection in vain. All his closest colleagues had likewise vanished inside the cascading towers, culled through unknowable schemas. Running DNA analysis of global DNA remixing dimensions, young Zamora proved the harvested subjects had undergone interlinking into an interconnected immortal bio-network capable of responding in perfect unison across light years, only to respective frequency signals from Saturn relay hubs. A self-propagating alien hive mind had seeded itself using the doomsday prophecy faithful as ripening terrestrial vectors. Dawn broke as the Leviathan craft suddenly vanished back through closing wormhole portals as unceremoniously as they had arrived after sweeping nearly all humanity judged sufficiently pliable. but parting energy waves swept across remaining global networks to inject hidden commands Sam realized would activate transformed mental states within unwary survivors again in just 6 months. A sequel episode to Judgment Day was already underway, and he shuddered, imagining what fresh tortures lay ahead for those narrowly kept by chance. Analyzing the elaborate neurofrequency sequences permeating Remnant's limbic systems showed packets aimed at gestating experimental psychological traits and skill aptitudes laying dormant, which would erupt when triggered to forcibly shape whoever endured the next trial by fire into more specialized castes, as violently birthed legion forms fulfilling intended survival functions. However gruesomely, each human shell might fracture under intensifying compression forces when their mental flowering came to full term. One truth loomed clearly from the decoded programming. Old humankind itself has been weighed in the cosmic balances and found obsolete amid infinitely churning elevated interstellar civilizations aligned toward constant biological reconditioning under ancient shepherds allied along Saturn's shining band. Sam turned to address his remaining CDC team, faces still stained with tears over loved ones already claimed by the harvester behemoths. Jaw set, he realized out loud the grave truth so many beyond now understood as well in agony and despair. Our species failed whatever evolutionary stress test was administered by forces wielding tools and philosophies far beyond current comprehension. Now humankind will be displaced by more functional birthing forms deemed useful for alien objectives. We were judged unprepared and cast aside. Hey sci-fi horror fans, if you enjoyed this story, make sure to smash that like button. Craving for another scary tale? Click that video on your screen. Until next time, everyone, and remember, stay cosmic.